Kahuna Connect, Buenos Aires style. We're in the backyard patio of Workana. Good to meet you.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, why don't you introduce yourself
Sure.
to our
So
audience?
I'm Tomás O'Farrell. I'm one of the founders of Workana. Workana is a freelancer marketplace focused on Latin America. What we do is we connect clients on one side with freelancers on the other.
Yep.
And we're the regional leader here in Latin America. We've got a presence in Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, pretty much every country in the region.
Great. So when we talked earlier, you said, see, in the U.S., like the freelance market is very well established and people have been doing this for a while, but in this region of the world, it's fairly new, so you forged new ground.
Exactly. So we got started 6 years ago, and at that moment, freelancing was something very, very new, almost niche. And I'm not going to say it's mainstream now, but it's slowly getting there as more and more people that are joining workforce are choosing to go independent. So that's definitely helping us out.
Yeah, and you talked about how when you started, you had your first month 10 people. And where are you now?
We're at 25,000 projects, so
Wow,
it's
that's great.
It's grown tremendously.
That's amazing. So talk to us a little bit about what that first kind of evolution is. Because when you're building a new market, that's a challenge in and of itself. And then even if you have an established market, building a company is hard to do. So.
It's very hard, especially with all these marketplaces. You've got the chicken and egg situation. So how do you scale this? How do you grow it? When we started out, we were lucky that we were one of the first ones to do this in Latin America. So by word of mouth and people that we knew, we got the initial supply. The first sellers came to the platform. And also by word of mouth and people that we knew, we got the first clients that joined in. But they were very, very limited, 10 projects that first month. So the good thing about being it so small is that you can actually take the time to check every single project, understand what they're looking for, figure out what went right, what went wrong, what things of a platform they liked, what things they didn't like. And based on that, we slowly started growing and scaling it.
So did you have an idea of where you wanted to start it in terms of both geography, but types of jobs that you thought?
Geography, yes. We launched in Spanish only at the beginning, but we knew we wanted something regional. We didn't want it to be focused on only one country. And we also knew that a lot of the US freelancer marketplaces are doing what they call international arbitrage. So it's a US client that is hiring a freelancer in India or Bangladesh because it's way cheaper. But it also has its own challenges of working in English and communicating with somebody that's on the other side of the world, etc. So we wanted something that would be local to local. So Brazilian client hiring a Brazilian freelancer. The type of jobs, we had a very vague idea, to be honest, almost non-existent. So we just said that it wanted to be digitally and remote. That's it. And that slowly evolved to mean IT, design, content, online marketing, those sort of things.
And do people actually meet the clients, or are the people who are sort of handling the job face to face, or is it all done Skype?
It could happen. It's very rare. Most of the interactions are Skype, Hangouts, that sort of thing.
And then you manage the payment aspect as well?
Correct. So the client posts the initial project. They start immediately receiving all the different proposals from freelancers. We don't set the price, so each freelancer is free to charge whatever they think is fair. They interview, they message via the platform, etc. And only when they're ready to choose somebody, that's the moment when they pay. Up to that, everything's free. And the way it works is the client pays the entire project up front. We hold those funds in escrow, and we only release those funds to the freelancer once the project is completed.
And then your business model is you take a percentage?
We take exactly a margin on each project that is.
And is it consistent, or does it change?
It's usually 15%, and in some cases, some types of projects it's a bit less, but it's.
Gotcha. And then do you monetize any other way? Do you have advertising?
Yes. No, we don't have advertising. We thought about it. We don't really like it that much. What we do is we have membership plans. So the freelancers can get into a membership plan and get all these different benefits. They get paid quicker, they get premium support, they can be in more categories, etc. And for the clients, we're also offering them to highlight their post and attract even more freelancers to them.
Now, is insurance an issue? Like, what if I am the hiring person and I'm not satisfied with the quality of the work? Like, do you mediate that?
That's one of the things that in the early days, we did all of those by hand. And in the beginning, since we didn't have any rated freelancer, nobody had any stars, so that happened a lot. Now it's more rare. And what happens is, in most cases, there's a self-mediation. So people say, you hire me to write 5 texts, 5 blog posts. I can only do 3, and you say, hey, this isn't working out. Well, I'll just pay you 60%. Yeah, this works, and we both part our ways. That's the majority of the cases. In some cases, when the relationship, they don't kind of agree, they reach an agreement, that's when they contact us, and that's when we get in. That's rare.
Gotcha. So you go from 10 to 25,000. At what point in time did you kind of get that economies of scale? Like, you got that momentum, and you're like, yeah, like, we figured it out. Like, talk about that moment and how it happened. And
I think it was probably around year 3. Around that time, 2 things happened. Number one is we use paid marketing as our one of our main sources of traffic. And at that moment, we sort of nailed the entire funnel, and our acquisition cost became much less than our lifetime value. And also, we figured out that lifetime value rebuy rate is very high. So project sizes are small, but the clients that come to a platform and understand the platform, their recurrence is very, very high. Okay. So those 2 things, we could sort of map out the lifetime value better. Plus, we started getting all these recurring purchases. And that's when we saw that this could be something very, very big.
And then, do you have the consistency on the customer side? Like, are the people that are posting projects consistently doing that? I get that you would have that on the freelancer side, because obviously they're looking for work. But the key is having that happen on the employer side.
Luckily, that happens on both sides.
Interesting. And we talked about this before. Like, is there the magic moment where, if I post 4 jobs, then like I'm golden? Like, we
started looking at that and trying to figure out what exactly happened. And we saw that on the demand side, on the client side, once a client pays their 5th project, they start to understand this whole concept of remote work much better. And they can not only understand how to choose the right freelancer, which is something key. In the beginning, you sort of have no idea. It's like going to a restaurant and picking wine when you have no idea. And you sort of pretend that you know what you're doing, but in reality, you're just choosing by price. And that's how customers do it in the beginning. But then they figured out exactly what they need and what sort of freelancer are they looking for. Are they looking for a team? Are they looking for somebody on their own? Are they looking for somebody that is exclusive, that will be working with other clients, that has a full-time job, that is in the same country, different country, etc. So they figure all that out, and that's when they understand the full potential of it, and that's when they make a change and they say, hey, before, when I needed this sort of thing, I used to go out and hire either somebody full-time to join my team or do it via an agency. Now I have this 3rd option, which is a lot quicker, and I can sort of scale it up and down as I need. So I'll start doing this more and more, and that's when they include it in their entire business model. And that's when the magic happens for us.
What happens if somebody wants to hire that freelancer full-time? How do you manage that?
It happens, and we're not doing anything right now. A new business model that people have suggested is, okay, if you want to take him off the platform, hiring full-time, just pay some fee or whatever. We don't do it right now. We see it as a success, as a platform success. We're not monetizing it, but it means that both parties actually found each other. So for us, it works.
One of the things that's interesting is, because you're forging a new market, you talk about the metaphor of like buying wine. You've got to do a lot of education, not so much on the freelancer side, but on the company side, because it's an adjustment for them. How do you go about doing that? Like, what kinds of stuff has worked for you?
We started this from the beginning, but in the beginning we did a lot of blog posts. So we wrote a lot of text, etc. But what happened halfway through is 2 things. One, we understood the clients better, what sort of company they are, their needs, why are they actually hiring us, why are they hiring at all, why are they hiring a freelancer, and why are they doing it through us, all those things. What are their alternatives, etc. So once we understood that better, the content that we created was a lot more targeted. And we slowly started, we still do a lot of blog posts and stuff like that, but we're doing a lot more video. So we're doing a lot more webinars, we're putting people together, and that's worked out a lot better.
Why is that? Just because people like the format, or it's easier to consume? People don't like to read?
I think people like to read, but here you're sort of showing them a different way. And video is much more powerful because you're not only telling them, but also we do a lot of success cases of people similar to them that are 2 years down the road, so they can learn from someone. Hey, if this guy who's in the same league as I do did this and that, then I could do the same thing, and it's easier for them to grasp.
Nice. What about community? Like, how important is that both to the freelance side and also to the company side? And do you use social media? Do you have forums?
We do a lot of that. Most of that is on the freelancer side. So since this is a new market and we're creating something that it's not that wide known here, and we're regional leaders, what we thought is if we just grow the pie, we'll grow ourselves as well. So we're doing a lot of education of understanding the market and how to become a successful freelancer, what sort of steps you need to do, how to get started, first 7 things that you need to do in your first month, and then when things start going your way, how to actually grow that, etc. So we put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah. What's the future hold?
The future is, in all these marketplaces, when you look at them on the site, on the product level, it's relatively simple. I mean, Uber, Airbnb, all of those have like 4 screens and that's about it. The magic is how do you match them, and what sort of car you get when you ask for an Uber, what sort of apartment I show you when you are looking for an Airbnb. And that matching part is very hard. It's very hard to do. In our case, we need to be able to match the correct client with the correct freelancer in hours or even less. And some clients may be looking for the best quality possible regardless of price. Another is in a hurry and needs somebody that can get started right away. Another is very price conscious, so he wants the cheapest option they can find. And those clients need to be routed to 3 different sort of freelancers. So we need to figure all that out very quickly and in scale. So matching will always be there. The other is on the freelancer, what sort of services and benefits we can provide them so that eventually they can have the same comfort that as if they were working Coca-Cola or in a big company, but working on their own. So that includes education, which is something that we're doing right now. That could include finance, healthcare, banking, all those sort of things.
What do you do for people in terms of insurance? I know in the US it's a big issue. Do you provide them with a mechanism, or is there state available? How does that work?
Every country in Latin America has their own different thing, but in most cases they have like this option for initial freelancers to use, which is the cheapest one and simplest one to have. Once you start scaling, there's this other, and it usually has a limit of how much of your income per year. And once you go above that, you go to the second one. The second one, you usually need an accountant for that. So what we did in Brazil, we did in Argentina, is we created a tool that helps them choose, okay, which one should I use? In the case of Brazil, May versus Simplest, which are the 2 options. And sort of help them choose and also direct them to a local accounting firm if they have any more questions. So we try to do stuff like that to help them.
And then what's the end game for you? Do you guys IPO? Do you get bought? Like, how do you think about that?
No idea. I think it's a bit early.
Just keeping your head above water.
But one thing that we learned is that if you're growing, if you're profitable, and if you are in an industry that has growth potential, all of those options are on the table. But if you actually create something with that in mind, it's very dangerous because you'll start cutting corners and not paying attention to details and not sweating the small stuff and all. And when that happens, the product starts to suffer, the community starts to suffer, the matching starts to suffer, and that won't end up happening. So if you do the other thing and you focus on building something sustainable for the long term, you have way more options.
Well, I appreciate you taking a couple minutes. Thanks.
Thanks for inviting me.
All right.